Oi oi, hello and welcome back to the Which Bookie YouTube channel for our final day previewing the Welsh Racing Festival, sponsored by DragonBet, who have kindly sponsored this video too. There is a link in the description with details about the Which Bookie daily tips at whichbookie.co.uk. Also, there's a sign up offer for DragonBet. Bet £10, get £20. Full terms and conditions are at the link in the description. Now, I'm recording this after day one's racing. We've still got Saturday's action. We've still got, obviously, Sundays to come, which we'll be previewing here. Will Smith sharing his thoughts in this video too. So we'll cut to him after this introduction. Come back to me with my thoughts on a few races at Chepstow. The ground's been pretty quick after day one. I know they're going to put some water on there, but it sounds like the chase course is going to stay pretty firm at the moment. Hurdle course will probably take the sort of water and the ground conditions a little bit better, but a lot of information to be found. That's why it's important to check our final selections at whichbookie.co.uk to find out where our decisions lay in the end. But without further ado, I'll pass you over to Will for his early thoughts for Sunday, and then you'll fire yourself back to me before we sign off this video. Thanks again for your support, and best of luck with whatever you fancy this weekend.
The third day of the Welsh Racing Festival at Chepstow. As I speak at time of recording, we still haven't got underway for the first day on the Friday as yet, so any thoughts obviously will certainly be flexible in terms of how the ground is on both the hurdle and chase track at Chepstow, and also over the course of the next 2 days, the first 2 days of that 3-day meeting, we'll see which stables have their horses perhaps more tuned up than others. Plenty of horses obviously making their seasonal debut, so definitely worth keeping an eye on how the meeting starts to pan out anyway before finalising those Sunday selections. But the early thoughts are certainly relevant for that Sunday card at Chepstow, and it's a good one. Featuring the Welsh champion hurdle, of course, moved from Foss Lass, and a good 2.5 mile novice chase as well, listed novice chase, which features the reappearance of Blue King Daru. He looks to have a good opportunity to get off the mark at the first time of asking over fences. But from a betting perspective, perhaps the Welsh champion hurdle is the first race to have a really good look at. And I must suggest that perhaps the top of the market is going to be hard to oppose. The likes of obviously Celtic Dino, who's been anti-post favourite for a while. He's probably been aimed at this race for a long way out, given connections. He would have a decent chance. Obviously, he's got some very good form last season in some decent novice hurdles and decent handicap hurdles, but he might just perhaps meet his match. And a horse who's slightly more enticingly priced, though not wildly so, is Tutti Quanti for Paul Nicholls, a horse who had a really interesting novice season last year. He won a couple of novice hurdles before, or either side of finishing 6th in the Supreme Novices Hurdle behind Copec de Boer. By no means at all was he disgraced that day. Ran a really good race, I thought, for a horse so inexperienced in what was a deep Supreme. A mark of 132, obviously, in this type of a race, being a fairly valuable handicap hurdle, of course, early season. You'd imagine Paul Nicholls might well have had half an eye on this before going on to those big races at Cheltenham, perhaps the Greatwood Hurdle itself at their November meeting. It'll be interesting to see which way he goes in the market and how forward the Paul Nicholls horses are in terms of whether he is worth supporting Tutti Quanti in that Welsh champion hurdle. There's a decent 2.5 mile handicap chase 35 minutes later at 3:52 as well. Plenty of these reappearing off the back of a break. There are some horses that will win some decent races this season again, but who's going to be the furthest forward? It's going to be really hard to nail down. So in terms of Chepstow from a betting perspective on Sunday, at the minute, a little bit lukewarm. Perhaps that Welsh champion hurdle the most enticing prospect, but there is some good racing at Goodwood and also at Naas on Sunday as well. Well worth having a look at a couple of those meetings. At Naas specifically, in the 3:10, a listed race, I thought A Bloom was a really interesting runner for William Haggis. Tom Marquand going over to take the ride. Might be interesting to see what price she is. And also It's a Heartbeat in the 1.5 mile listed race at 3:45 as well. Might well be potentially slightly overpriced, given she comes from maybe slightly more unfashionable connections in terms of the usual runners in this type of race. So a couple of horses to be of interest at Naas. And at Goodwood, I thought right here, right now, in the 6 furlong handicap sprint at 3:37, definitely on the short list, depending on how the ground is at Goodwood. It would probably need to dry up for him to be seen to best effect. So there's your Sunday thoughts for that third day of the Welsh Racing Festival and other meetings. As ever, have a good couple of days over the first 2 days at Chepstow, and back to the website whichbookie.co.uk for finalised selections on Sunday morning. And thanks again to DragonBet for the sponsorship over the course of the 3 days.
Some cracking action on the Sunday. Feature event is the Dragon Bet Welsh Champion Hurdle. But the race before that, the Tom Malone Bloodstock Novices Chase, a listed race. It's over 2 miles 4 or 2 miles 3.5 really. Interesting start, again, with the ground being as firm as it is. But we've got Blue King Daru, a very good horse. On these terms on this race, gets well in. It's going to be a short price favourite in here. Doyen Quest for the Skeltons looked like a real nice type last season too. It does look like the chief rival within this race. You've got Speculatrix for Gordon Elliott and Sean Byrne. That's a horse that I put up at the early stage of last season as a non-runner. I think this horse has got plenty of ability as well, but yeah, it's going to be hard for horses to beat Blue King Daru. Priced accordingly, but that's well worth watching that race to find out how the horses perform and what could happen in behind, because I think there's a couple of winners in that race, regardless of it only being a 5-runner field. Into the Welsh Champion Hurdle itself at 3:17, over 2 miles. Celtic Dino is the 5-2 favourite at the moment. Finished off the season at Aintree. Hiked up a few pounds for that performance. We know that Sam Thomas has done well at this meeting in previous seasons. Has an obvious chance, Celtic Dino, but it is top weight, and I do think that there are a couple of, say, unexposed horses. I think there's a couple of horses that have got mileage in their mark at least, and if they're not unexposed, then they could probably run right off the marks they've got. The one I think is a bit of a combination of both, a bit unexposed and has definitely got mileage in the mark, in my opinion, and looks like a massive price too, is Alexi for Joe Tizzard and Brendan Powell. Now, that's another yard that at the start of the season can do well, and they have had lots of winners at this meeting in the past, especially when Colin, Joe's dad, used to train. Alexi is a 5-year-old in here, 127 the horse is rated, but first 2 wins at the start of last season. First came on good to firm rattling ground, run after was on good ground. Both of those were very impressive. Look, novice, he jumped quite high. And then the runs after that went for a listed hurdle where in February, I fancied the horse that day, ran all right. It looked like it was a fairly deep race, but I don't know. It didn't look like it was 100% of the horse that day. Ran in a handicap after that in March, pulled way too hard and was well out the back. So maybe just a horse with a summer on the back, a bit of improvement for the yard. Obviously, a 5-year-old turning 6 this season, but 127, I think, massively underestimates what this horse is potentially capable of. 20 to 1's a big price when you've got extra places up for grabs. That's where my thoughts lie at the moment, but I do need to do a bit more work on the race, so check out the column to find out what my final thoughts are. There's a good race after the 3:52, the Dragon Bet John Ayres Memorial Handicap Chase. This is over 2 miles 3.5. Lots of horses in here that are going to be winning races throughout the season, so we've got to try and figure out where the information is going to come from and potentially which of the horses are set up to go well in here. Saint Segal's the favourite at the moment, just shading favouritism over Il Ridotto. Both those horses have had similar sort of layouts around about 180 days. Saint Segal is a course and distance winner. So too is Unexpected Party, a Dan Skelton runner. He's got a few charges in here. I think he's got 4 runners in this race. Harry Skelton opts to ride Jet Plane though. Horses like Unexpected Party, Fraired Arms, even Risking the Ground, to be fair, are probably horses maybe for another day. Fraired Arms has had a recent spin a couple of weeks ago, so could be interesting under Liam Harrison. Jet Plane though would like the yard first string. Look, I've mentioned lots of horses in this race, and I think that's the nature of what this particular race is. It's a very deep renewal. It is going to be fast ground on that chase course. I'm not entirely sure where things will pan out, but it would be another one that probably won't result in a selection for the column, but would definitely be a race that we have to be watching, would be my recommendation. The 4:27 is an interesting race. It's the Dragon Bet Seniors Handicap Hurdle. Now, Washington won this race last year after being very well supported and was ridden like he had to win this race. It's a tricky one because that was on soft ground last year, and this will be very, very different going. 11-8 about a horse that's probably definitely been aimed at this particular race. Would be a bit interesting, but a horse that's featured on the column for me at Which Bookie multiple times is a horse called Move It Like Minnie. Now, Move It Like Minnie is an 8-year-old turning 9, bit of a rogue. She's had wind surgery just before the start of the season, in September it was, but she's a very good horse on her day. I say she, it's because it's a Move It Like Minnie, it's a gelding. Move It Like Minnie is a very good horse. Some good runs at Ascot. There have been some decent forms there. There was one where it was a 3rd place finish behind Altabelli. Even before that at Ascot in December, 4th in a field of 18, like a good place type horse. Now in this particular renewal, the horse is now down to 118, like an ever dropping mark. Tom Bellamy takes the ride. The last time Tom Bellamy rode this horse, unseated and jinxed, but also was reported to have bled that day. So look, there are definite risks that come with a horse like Move It Like Mini. However, in a race of this nature, where I don't think there's going to be too many horses that will be absolutely out off their feet to go and win this one, Washington probably, well, I say probably, definitely will be. King William Roof is another one that's relatively short in the market, will be another one that I think is well off for this race. But they're horses that I don't think are as well handicapped as Move It Like Mini could be. A horse that has his own idea about ways to do things. But look, gets into this senior handicap hurdle now as an 8-year-old. Tongue tie, visor, fresh from a wind up. Tom Bellamy taking the ride after unseating a couple of starts back. When the horse bled, I mean, lots of reasons to potentially not have an involvement in here, but I will be having one eye on Move It Like Mini. 11-2 at the time of recording. I'd like that price to get a little bit bigger, but we'll see where that sits. And then there's a bumper to close up the card that could have some nice types in there. No real thoughts on there, but again, it's another great race to be watching, and it's a fantastic sort of final card for what's been a very good 3-day fixture. I'm saying that just after day one, but I'm sure Saturday looks like we've got some cracking action. So big thanks to DragonBet for sponsoring that meet, and big thanks to DragonBet for sponsoring this video. Thank you guys for your support, and we will see you again very soon.